In this video, we're going to work through some problems involving negative exponents, and this is just an introductory video to negative exponents. So if you've never seen them before, then you are in the right place. So if we take a look at example 1, we have 4 to the negative second. And when we're dealing with these problems, we're going to simplify them, and that just means we want to get rid of all the negative exponents. So in order to get rid of negative exponents, you need to change the position of whatever's being raised to the negative exponent. So what I'm going to do first is put this over 1. So 4 to the negative second is the same as 4 to the negative second over 1. And now because this 4 is being raised to the negative second, I want to change its position. So I want to bring it to the bottom of the fraction. So if it's on the top of the fraction, I'm going to bring it to the bottom. If it's on the bottom, I'm going to bring it to the top. So now on the bottom, we're going to have 1 times 4, and then this negative exponent changes to a positive exponent. And we're going to be left with a 1 on the top because there's nothing there. And now we don't really need this extra 1 on the bottom. So on the top we have 1, and then 4 squared is 16, so we get 1 over 16 as our answer. So now if we take a look at example 2, this time we have something being raised to the negative on the bottom of our fraction. So again, we want to change the position of whatever's being raised to the negative exponent, and that's going to turn the exponent positive. So because our 2 to the negative third is on the bottom, we need to bring it to the top. So on the top, we're going to have 1 times 2 to the positive third. On the bottom, we're left with nothing, so we're going to be left with a 1. And those 1s don't really matter, because 1 over 1 is 1. So we really have 2 to the third, and 2 to the third is equal to 8. Taking a look at example 3, this time we have 2 things being raised to negative exponents. So we have 3 to the negative third over 5 to the negative second. So in order to make the 3 to the negative third have a positive exponent, we need to bring it to the bottom of our fraction. In order to make the 5 to the negative second have a positive exponent, we need to bring it to the top. So now on the top, we're going to have 5 to the positive second. On the bottom, we're going to have 3 to the positive third. And now I can simplify these. So 5 squared is going to give us a 25 on the top. 3 to the third gives us a 27 on the bottom. So we get 25 over 27. Taking a look at example 4, we have 6/7 raised to the negative second. Remember, when we're raising a fraction to some power, we're really just raising the numerator to that power and raising the denominator to that power. And now we're going to do something similar to what we did in example 4. So I want to make the 6 to the negative second have a positive exponent, so I'm going to bring that to the bottom. I want to make the 7 to the negative second have a positive exponent, so I bring it to the top. So on the top, I'm going to have 7 to the positive second. On the bottom, I'll have 6 to the positive second. 7 squared is going to be a 49 on the top. 6 squared gives me a 36 on the bottom. So we have 49 over 36. Let's go over 4 examples that are going to involve variables. So if we take a look at example 5, we have x to the negative fifth over 10. So this has a variable in it, but we're still going to do the same thing. Only our x is being raised to a negative exponent. The 10 is not being raised to a negative exponent, so we are not going to move it. We're only going to move what's being raised to a negative exponent. So I want to move this x to the negative fifth to the bottom. So now on the bottom, I will have x to the positive fifth times 10. And on the top, I'm just left with a 1. And I really should probably write this with a 10 in front. So we're going to have 1 over 10 times x to the positive fifth as our answer. So only move things that are being raised to the negative exponent. So taking a look at example 6, we have 2 times a to the negative fourth over b to the negative third. So this 2 is not being raised to a negative exponent, so it's going to stay where it is. But the a is being raised to a negative fourth, so we're going to move it to the bottom of our fraction. The b is being raised to a negative third, so we're going to move that to the top. So on the top, we still have our 2, and now we have b to the positive third. And on the bottom, we're going to have a to the positive fourth. Moving on to example 7, I encourage you guys to pause the video and try these last 2 examples on your own, and then you can watch me work through them to make sure you've solved them correctly. So we've got 4 things here. We've got an x, a y, a w, and a z. So we have to figure out what's being raised to a negative and what's being raised to a positive. So the only 2 things being raised to the negative are the x and this z. So our x is going to move to our denominator. Our z is going to move to our numerator. Our y and w are going to stay where they are. So on the top, we still have this y to the second, but now we've moved our z to the negative fifth to the top. so it becomes z to the positive fifth. And on the bottom, we have w to the third, but we've also moved x to the negative fourth to the bottom, so it becomes x to the positive fourth. And finally, example 8. Let's think about what we want to move. So we have a 6 to the negative 2 on the top, so that's going to have to move because it's being raised to the negative, so that'll go to the bottom. We've got an m to the negative fourth on the bottom, so that's also going to move. It's going to go to the top. And we have a j to the negative first on the top, so that is also going to move to the bottom. The k and the n are going to stay where they are because they are not being raised to negatives. So on the top, we're going to have this k to the third, and we've also moved our m to the negative fourth to the top, so it becomes m to the positive fourth. And then on the bottom, we know we have our n to the second. We also moved our 6 to the negative second, so that becomes a 6 to the positive second. And we moved our j to the negative first, which becomes j to the positive first. And now we just want to actually evaluate 6 to the second because it's a number. So on the top, we'll keep k to the third, m to the fourth. On the bottom, I'm going to put the 6 to the second in front. And 6 squared is going to give me 36. I still have my n squared, and j to the first is just j. So hopefully this video gave you guys a little bit of an introduction to negative exponents. You just need to remember that if something's being raised to a negative exponent, you want to change its position in order to make the exponent positive. So if the thing being raised to the negative exponent is in the numerator, you want to bring it to the denominator, and vice versa. If the thing being raised to the negative is in the denominator, you want to bring it up to the numerator.